Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how to repair the pull cord on your older 2-cycle lawnmower. The rope on this one has been shortened and it doesn't go back too well. The owner tried to fix it, but he decided it was better to bring it over here. So to start with, you want to remove all the Phillips screws on top, and there's 4 of them. And on these older lawnmowers, there's a fuel shutoff valve. So you want to make sure it's in the off position, because when you disconnect the fuel line from the carburetor, the fuel may leak if it's not off. You're going to need to run the handle through the hole. And I'm going to disconnect the fuel line right at the fuel tank over here. So just squeeze the fuel clamp. And you want to be very careful pulling the fuel line from the shutoff valve, because you can actually snap the valve. So I'm going to try. It doesn't want to come, so I'm just going to grab an X-Acto knife and just cut a sliver in the line. And then it came off without damaging the connector. And now I'm just going to cut a piece off the fuel line where I put the sliver in. The line will still be long enough to connect on the connector. And now I'm just going to take this and move it out of the way. Now you'll see a small 7/16 bolt right underneath there. What you need to do is just loosen this bolt. And now you can pull the whole mechanism out. And since we're replacing the cord, I'm just going to snip it. And now I'll get the cord and get it off of the handle. Now you need to grab the whole recoil mechanism in your hands, remove the one clip over here. Now there'll be a washer that comes off, and now the plastic gear. And remember that the flat side like this goes toward the recoil mechanism. And now I'm going to remove the 3 screws over here. It's a bit more complicated sometimes replacing the recoil rope on a lawnmower than most other lawnmowers. There's a few extra steps involved. And now this will come off. And you can see how the rope is locked in there. So now take a good note of how the rope is in there and remove the old rope. Now the rope size I'll be using today is a number 4, and I've got approximately 5 feet. It's always safe to have a bit extra rope when you put it in, and then if it's too long you can always shorten it then. And before I use any rope after I've cut it from the roll, I always melt the end a bit. You may want to wear gloves doing this. And then I just quickly roll it smooth like this so it doesn't fray. Now grab the recoil part, insert the rope. You got to follow the maze over here. Just push down, it's going to kind of sit in there and stay there. And you can always use a flat screwdriver to squeeze it right in there. And at this point I'm going to reinstall the plate on top. You just want to insert it over top, line up the holes. And now you want to install the 3 screws. And you can snug them for now and then go around and tighten them up evenly. And that'll be good. And once you've got your rope in there with the cover back on, you want to pull on the rope. It should not come out, and that tells you it's in there properly. And now it's time to install the rest of the parts. Before I do that, I'm going to grab a bit of lithium grease. And I'm just going to put a bit here where the plastic gears join. You can also put a bit here if you want, it's not necessary. Now I'm going to insert the plastic gear, and remember the flat side here goes toward the recoil mechanism. And now the washer goes on, and now that E-clip. And I'm going to put the clip back with some pliers just by squeezing like this. And make sure it's on there properly. And now before I reinstall it on the machine, I'm just going to roll the rope this way, clockwise. Now I've probably cut a bit too long of a piece of rope, but that's okay for now. Now I'm going to reinstall the recoil mechanism, and this shaft is going to go in the hole right here, just like this. So reinsert it into the hole, and these two wires are going to be right here, one on top and one below. Hopefully you can see the wires there. You can see one's on top and the other one is below that metal plate. So now you can push the whole mechanism as far as it will go, and make sure to tighten up this bolt underneath. And it's a 7/16. What I'm going to do now is grab the rope, run it through the hole here. Now I'm going to tie it to the handle. And I'm just going to make a simple knot over here. Now I'll just stick it inside the handle. Grab one end of the rope and the handle and just pull. It's going to tighten up the knot for you. Now you can see that the rope is way too high and it's not returning properly, so what I need to do is tighten up the spring. Now to tighten up the spring for the rope to return properly, you're going to have to grab the rope and turn it counterclockwise like this. What this is doing is tightening up the spring. So just do a few turns like that. Now let the rope go. Now it's starting to get tighter. Now I want it slightly tighter, so I'm just going to turn it one more turn. Just like this. And that's good. Now while you've got this apart and you can easily access it, I do recommend spraying a bit of liquid wrench right in the spring. It'll just make the rope go back in easier and make it last longer. If you see a drip at the bottom over here, just grab a rag and clean it off. Now the next thing I'm going to do is reconnect the fuel line to the fuel tank. Just be careful reconnecting the fuel line on the plastic connector because it could easily break and it may not be so easy to locate a new one. Now since I don't like these clamps here, I put a spring-loaded clamp like this. And now I'm just going to squeeze it and bring it over the connector. Now I'll just flip this thing up like this. Now when I took this apart, I forgot to tell you there's a small line over here, and it's the primer line here for the primer. And it goes right on the connector here where my finger is on the carburetor. So make sure to hook that back up or you're going to have a really hard time starting up your machine. So just reach down in there and push it in as far as you can. Again, don't pry the connector because it can easily break as the whole carburetor is made of plastic. Now what you want to do is grab the pull cord handle and run it through the hole on the plastic cover here. Now all you need to do is line up the holes for the 4 screws on top. And now just tighten up the 4 screws. Now that you're done, make sure to put the fuel valve in the open position. And now if I pull the cord, it goes in back properly. Now the method I just showed you is just one way to replace the pull cord on your lawnmower. I'm just going to show you another quick method for when you get a bit better at small engine repair. And this method here may save you a lot of time. For this method, all you need to do is reach down underneath and loosen the 7/16 bolt over here like I did previously. And what works good for this is a ratcheting wrench. And now with this method, I can just reach down underneath and pull the whole mechanism and pull it right out. And now you've got the mechanism in your hands. It's going to save you a lot of time. You don't need to disconnect the fuel lines or the primer line and take off the plastic cowling off. And you can just repeat the same process I did previously in this video and then put it back on. And remember to put the 2 pins here above and below the metal plate. Stick this in and then tighten up your spring. You may find it harder to tighten up the spring so the cord will go back in tighter because there's not much room to do it this way. This is the method I use, but I showed you the other method in case you're not used to it. Anyways, I just wind up the rope and then I reach down underneath, make sure my pins are in the proper position over here. I go down underneath, just push it in, and then I tighten up that bolt over here underneath. And now all I do is I go in and turn the rope to wind it tighter, or you can loosen the bolt again and just tighten up the spring by turning this part here separate from the spool that holds the rope. And now I'm just going to start it up and make sure everything's good that way. And make sure if you start it in your garage like I'm doing today that you have proper ventilation. So thanks again for watching, guys. If you followed this video, you'll see that it's not as complicated as it seems to replace the pull cord on your 2-cycle lawnmower. Make sure to subscribe and you'll see me in my next video.